going to make sure it's all good. Okay, we're ready.
Cool.
Hey Jesse, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Ah man, just working it out. It's summertime, the year's going by very, very fast. So just been doing some shows and touring and that kind of stuff so far. So
Awesome.
everything's going so well. So man, we had this before just to let people know we had an advertisement we went before. We had some sound issues and you know, I begged and pleaded with Jesse that we could that we could reschedule because I feel that, this is something that's is dear to me as far as what's going on development and Jesse's been there and we've had many conversations and I felt that the public needs to know some information because I think there's a lot of speculation, then there's a lot of people that's just critics, but they don't really go into detail why they are critics of Push 3. And I just wanted to let people know that, compared to the MPC and all these other instruments, like Push is still fairly new, but it's 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 coming in strong and there's a very good community out there that I think that do support it and we just want to just talk. So welcome again, Jesse. Thank you very much for taking time.
Thanks. Yeah, it's hard to stream some of this stuff, when you're playing a push and you're playing it live and you latency and all this stuff. So, yeah, apologies about last time. I'm glad we have another chance to talk and go as deep as we want.
Yeah. So I guess just off like, like I said, there was always the NPC, there was always Novation, just all these other like what led you to develop the push? Like what was the key thing?
So I think for me, like I was using multi-track recorders. I had a four-track tape recorder in high school, and I think, it was like around the like late 90s I was getting into. My brother had an MPC 2000, so like that got me into chopping samples and making beats that way, mostly because drummers were always late to practice, and I was like, man, I got to be able to do this myself. And eventually that got I got into Ableton Live because of the warping, really. Like being able, I always wanted the time stretch, and when it finally came, it was like, oh wow, I can finally make any sample I use match up to anything else. And that along with chopping is like, I still miss some of those things from the MPC, I think. So yeah, for me, I worked I worked on the APC 40 before Push with a Kai Professional, and like during that time, I love the APC 40 and it's a great for performance. But I really wanted something like, I love drum racks and Ableton Live, and I wanted something that gave me that like hands-on chopping and beat making from the MPC, but also with some of the flexibility of live and the warping in live and all that stuff. So that's really where Push came out of. Originally, it was really just for drum racks, and it was the CEO, the founder Gerhard, who was like, it's also got to work for melody and harmony, and that's yeah. So that was our next thing. I've got the original prototype here cleaned up too, which is what I made originally with Legos and some chopped up. Oh man, that's how bad it is. Yeah, it needs some space. So
Uh-oh.
Legos aren't strong enough for.
There's something going on with the audio. It just happened.
Oh, give me 1 second.
2 seconds.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, going on that, can you go into how do you because I heard the story. I was looking at an interview and I heard the story about you building everything with Legos? Like what led you to like starting like, okay, Legos is going to be my 3D model.
Yeah, I mean, back then we didn't have 3D models, and I mean, we didn't have 3D printers, and really uh, prototyping something like for real. It's like making it for real. That's kind of what we do when we're making hardware now. Is we make an engineering run where you make the circuit board in China and you build up the parts, and it's expensive and costly. And we didn't have a hardware team at that time, so really for me, I just needed to give them a proof of concept about like why should we do this? What's important about this that we need to make? And even from the start, I wanted it to be standalone. I wanted that like Ableton Live's features mixed with the MPC, and also with sequencing a bit too. I think there's like we wanted to be able to sequence like an 808 or 909, and also be able to play it. I'm a live player. I like to play live, but a lot of people like to sequence. So I think like yeah, the Legos came about from me trying to be like what I was looking into like 6 month timelines to prototype something, but we didn't even know where the buttons were going to go yet. So I was like, wouldn't it be great if we could just make something where the buttons could move around until we got the idea of where they should be? And that's where the Legos came in. And we used this old kit from Livid Instruments, made this kit, a brain where you could attach buttons to it. And I just
Oh
glued
wow.
those to Legos and uh, made up that thing that I just broke into pieces on the floor there. But I'll get it back together. It's just Lego. So
Yeah, I remember Livid. They had like a touch screen. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just know like when they had like it's almost like a giant iPad. What I remember that they had made something.
yeah, they did a lot of custom controllers, like that you could they could make things custom for you. And I know those guys. They were great, and so it was a combination of just that, and then what could I make easily. So rather than get a grid of 64 buttons, I got a launch pad, and rather than getting a screen that I'd have to program, I got a remote SL compact, and I chopped these all up in ways that glued them together in a way that made it. I knew it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't velocity sensitive. The pads weren't right, but enough to give me a proof of concept that I could take to both Ableton and other users and show it around and see like, is this something? Does this thing have legs? Is it something we should make? And then
So
we went and made it. After convincing people in
mhm.
house, we went and had a Kai professional engineer it for us the first round in the first push. And
Yeah. So tell me this, did you approach Ableton or did Ableton approach you? Like how did that work out? Because I know some people probably like have ideas sometimes and do people approach you or do you say, look, I got this concept and you kind of sell them on the idea?
yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I get approached a lot. I think I was working at Ableton already, so I think I started in 2005. So, and I did artist relations. I did partner marketing. And I worked a lot on getting like live light into different partners' boxes. So that got me a good relationship with the Kai Professional and Novation, and that's where working on the Akai pitched us the APC 40, and I was kind of the one who was like deep into, oh, this button should go there, and I felt like I knew where this stuff should go because I think I have both using the program myself, but also like a lot of being in touch with tons of artists always gave me like, I'm constantly getting wishes and like, oh, I wish Live could do this or that, or you guys could make something like this. So I hear tons of input all the time, and I think I'm pretty good at synthesizing that and bringing it all together. And then we did the APC 40 and with Glenn Darcy and Dan Gill over there at Akai, and that ended up being really successful. So I think it gave me the ability in house to sort of have the ear of people to do this. I think so. I think I'm more of a like I grew into the position at Ableton. Coming to a company and just pitching a product to them is a tough sell. I'd say like it's uh, you know companies have a lot of people in house who want to do their own stuff, and So it's actually like it's hard for us to even do any of the ideas that we have in house. We have tons of different ideas coming from all over that people would love to make into hardware, but we're one team, one hardware team, so it's kind of like we can only do so much. You know, we're not big like a lot of the other companies, I think, in that way. But
Right.
and I guess I was not trained in any of this originally, so I learned a lot on the job from a Kai professional, from just using different gear over the years too.
So okay, so I had to push. I had push one, and I'm not sh I would say probably I would think the Kai Force came after push one. I would think, or I don't know if it came after push two. So reason why I'm asking the question is your because you just mentioned your relationship with a Kai professional. So were they instrumental in helping you kind of semi-develop the push, or was like that was completely separate and
No,
you know,
with Push we designed it entirely in house and at Ableton, and I think the Force came after Push 2, so it's a little later. And yeah, but Akai did the engineering and they did a great job on it, and Push 1 was a big success, and I think, but even then we were like, we knew we wanted a color display that we could show samples on and chop samples, and that was super important to me. And the LCD we had on Push One, what didn't allow that. You know, it was just character display. So I think to find a display and do the development you need to do to draw on that display is a huge job that can really had to be done in house for us, both from a financial perspective and development perspective. Because like I think Akai did so much for us for Push One, and we were super appreciative. But we have one product. We could spend all our time on it. Where they're like, okay, we did a lot of work for you guys, but we have these other products to work on. So we kind of
right.
felt like at that point we needed to do it ourselves, to do it as deeply integrated as we wanted to do it.
Yeah, because I know Akai is like what in music now. I think
Yeah.
that's the company, parent company. Um, so just going to other designs, like I know that you guys had, I mean, COVID, everybody had different issues as far as the chips not necessarily being there. And yeah, I just heard some interesting things like, Braun, like you got kind of some ideas from Braun as far as design wise. And also like the screen being like from a refrigerator or stove, correct? Can you go into like some of the like how'd you piece some of the pieces together to get because I know like people see things, but they don't actually know like the real development side of like how you got to kind of piece things together and interesting things that you may see like, hey, this may work, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like first I'll go into the screen first because that was like, with Push One we had this. We're not big enough to. We're not like Apple. We can't say like to a display manufacturer, make us a display. We need this many, because they're working in like millions of displays for cell phones. So like doing a custom display for people is really expensive. And so we were looking, even for Push One, we were looking at color displays, and they were all like this big or like cell phone shaped. It's easy to find them in cell phone shape or in like iPad, or like in your car you'll see some of these displays that are for the kids to watch a movie on the back of your minivan or whatever. But we wanted something that was like roughly the shape of Push One's screen, but in color that could show samples. And you see examples of this all over the place. Like the Force has its one screen like this, and Machine has two smaller ones which are more cell phone sized. And we got we got incredibly lucky because we were looking and couldn't find anything. And then Gerhardt was driving a rental car, and he sees this display on the dashboard, and he's like, "Huh, this looks like just about what we've been looking for all this time." And we found the car model. We went in and like dug in and found out what it was. Turns out it was made for Bosch stoves and BMWs, and we were like, great, can we have one too? And then we ended up, yeah, using that display for Push 2 and for Push 3. So it was and it was incredibly lucky because the width of it was like the same width as the 8 pads on Push One. So we just got like crazy lucky on it. It's almost the same exact width.
Wow. Did you talk to the manufacturer or like did you have to talk to BMW? Because I know like sometimes people just, you have to like a company will just buy everything up. Like and like you're like, oh man, I can't get it. So sometimes you have to just make deals with, maybe not the direct manufacturer. Sometimes you gotta make a deal with like, a third party. So like did you have to go to BMW or you just was able to get from the straight from the manufacturer?
No, eventually we found out where it was from. It was made by Sharp. You know, they make calculators and lots of
Right.
things, and we had to go to them. And yeah, that display has been awesome and taken years off my life. I think in terms of like sourcing it and yeah, and that ties into your other question about like COVID. Like again, we're not the big fish, and even like there were components during COVID that like we wanted to buy them, but a car company was like, well, we want to buy them. And then a cell phone company's like, actually, we're going to buy them because the cell phone companies buy the components in the greatest numbers. And so they have the biggest buying power. And then cars are next. And then little old music manufacturers are next. And even somebody like in music or Yamaha or something like that, they have much bigger buying power because they're buying encoders for 70 products rather than for one product, and now we have two along with Move as well. And that we ended up we made our own encoders as well. Like we do a lot of things ourselves. The jog wheels custom, the pads are our own technology, and so we've done a lot of things that are our own things, but there's still tons of chips inside that you are. Yeah, we're like during COVID, the prices of them were just going like through the roof, then down and up, and there was times when we're like, oh, are we not? We may not be able to make this product anymore
Wow.
because Ford needs a chip to open their window of their car, and it's the same one. We're
Wow.
like we're lucky though because there's a chip that a lot of companies use that there was a fire in Japan that like took out one chip that made some companies have to re-engineer their entire product.
Yeah, I remember hearing about the fire. Everybody was like, man, like I guess it was like when the fire happened, a lot of car companies had to stop like completely making cars. Like they were like, oh, we can't even produce a car right now because these chips are not around or available.
Yeah, I mean, I heard of car companies that were like cars that were sitting in lots that were completely finished except for like the windows couldn't go up and down, because of some chip or something. So, yeah, it's COVID has been I mean, it was great for all music companies. Everybody during COVID was like, it's time to learn how to be a beat maker or time to play guitar. So that was great for music companies. And then after everybody's like, actually, I'm going on vacation now. So it's been a roller coaster ride, with sales going up and down and uh, but but the component sourcing part was no fun at all, especially when you can't you can't travel. We couldn't travel to China to manufacture to check it out. Like even if we wanted to replace a part, normally when we're doing like an early production run to test it out, we're there to see, hey, is this getting put together correctly or not? And yeah, so it's a it's a hardware challenge. So like my life is like I think I'm both deep into the details of like, oh, the drums and sample slicing should work like this, and also like, oh man, I'm an expert on tariffs and I didn't want to be at all. So I kind of live between different worlds.
The economic world, what could
Yeah,
really happen and what's going on. So,
I love when my job is like, oh, I've got to test out how the CV calibration, or I've got to how's the pad sensitivity for finger drumming, and what's the recording quality for my guitar. When that's my part of my job, I'm like as happy as can be. When I'm like, oh, what's the tariffs going to be after 2 months in this? That is not my favorite part of the job.
so okay, so I know that, usually the thought process is way before the actual build or certain things. So with push 3, how how long ago did you know that you wanted to make it a standalone? Like when you did push one, was it automatically like, okay, we're gonna do a standalone and you just kind of held it and kept it secret, or was standalone like something that developed in time? Like, okay, you know what, we need to make this a standalone kind of piece.
I mean, from the beginning, when even before it was, when it was still like a 4x4 drum rack controller, it was, the idea was to have it standalone. It just was like there were steps we needed to take to get there that would have taken, if you want to do everything all at once, it would have taken us 10 years and we'd have no product selling. It wouldn't have worked, I think, and we wouldn't have been sure if even the idea was a good one yet, you know. So I think doing it as a controller first let us sort of validate that we liked that idea, that shape, and then, you know, the success of push one was like, well, now I think we can do something where we can put the samples on there and do more color stuff, go more in depth into MIDI editing and all this stuff. And then that success let us say, okay, let's now we can do the work to really get, like, in our case we had to get like live working on Linux on a special computer chip to make it work out. And so it really was like stages with each one kind of validating what comes next. I think we did two things with push 3 at the same time, which in retrospect maybe was a little too much for us to bite off at one time, which was both coming up with our own way to do these expressive pads and to make it standalone was like really a lot and a really long development cycle for it. So I think it was 7 or 8 years from when we started until we got to the main thing. And during that time, we're also like building up the feature set of push 2 along the way to knowing that we have standalone coming. So like, you know, if we had if we didn't have standalone coming, we may not have gone as in depth into MIDI editing on push 2 as we did. But knowing that we were going to need some of that stuff, basically anything that you look at your computer for, we want to have working on push at some point. So we're, you know, we have to do it in stages. You have limited time to develop it, and but you're trying to do the like the first releasable product you can. So, you know, we release it at a stage where it can do certain things, and then you keep building on it over time as you go. You know, and I think we've gotten with 12.2, we've gotten into a pretty great state for it. With where we're, I think, now getting into the place where there's still some base features we want to get in there, but I think like we want to get to you know, now we can get in some more creative uses of the expressive pads or different things that we've had in our heads for a long time that we haven't had time to do because we're trying to get the groove pool working in there, trying to get tuning systems working, trying to get, you know, all these things that you know from live to work on the standalone product. So
So what you saying that like how does the development of push kind of um make the like the actual application like so like make like basically like okay we got this piece and now we want to do this. How does that work with the development of actual Ableton? Like does that sometimes you guys are like almost ahead of like like ahead of time and you got to kind of tell Ableton like, hey, we really need to improve on this part of the application.
yeah, I mean, we have in the hardware focus area, like where that I lead, there's we've got we've got the hardware engineers and firmware engineers. So they're focusing really on like the circuit board, the layout, the quality of it, like the how good the audio interface is, how the pads react, and exactly how the pads feel when you move from pad to pad, how the lights change color and all this stuff. And you know, then we have industrial design to see what's the shape of it. Is it timeless? Like we said, we certainly were influenced by Braun and a lot, you know, Dieter Rams and these old industrial designers to try to come up with something that's timeless. You know, like you won't find an Ableton product with like fluorescent sides on it or anything. You know, like we want it to be there in 20, 30 years and still look like it's like timeless, I guess. Um, so I think then on the other side we have a software team that's really dedicated just to push, and this team has a couple designers and developers, and they're working constantly on on a couple tracks really. Like one is like if Live comes up with a new feature, we want to support it. So there's a lot we have to do to be like, okay, Live 12.2 is going to have this in Live. We want to support that on Push. Then there's things that we want to do, like 16 pitches, for instance, like now how you can hit a pad and play it at 16 pitches. Live doesn't need that necessarily, but we do. So we might work on that stuff, or integrating other things that we hadn't yet, like the groove pool or different things like that into onto Push. And I think, and then we also have another team that's dedicated just to Move. So the
Yeah,
Move
so I was gonna
software.
ask. I was gonna ask. So like is Move totally separate from the push development team?
It is, because it's a different technology under the hood, and it has its own, because it works on like an ARM processor, a cheaper processor, so it needs a really different, entirely different base to it. Although both they share an operating system, but they have different technology on top. And like, I think Move is really great at being like snappy. It turns on faster, and it's really on the go. It's lightweight. It's the heat management's better because it's an ARM processor. Where Push is like the beast that can do all the things Live can do. It's got the depth of simpler and sampler, and the way you can chop things up and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're running two different tracks that have their own, and kind of Live and Push are kind of in a world together, where like Note, our app on the iPhone, is more similar to Move, and those two are kind of like one track. Got kind of two tracks going, I think, that have different benefits and consequences for both, I think.
So has Move, like, have you seen some stuff on Move like that's that's not on push and you're like, maybe we should think about like doing this for the next update for push.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all in tight sync anyway. Like we all talk, and we all use I use Move and I use Push, and I think, yeah, like an example I like on Move, you hit a pad and turn the knob to adjust the volume of that pad. Like I'm like, I want that kind of speed on. We don't have that on Push. Like there's you can change the volume of a pad on Push, but it's not quite as fast as something like that on Move. There's definitely, and then on the flip side, there's, we have operator, we have simpler, we have sampler, we have all these things on Push, where I'm sure on Move users are like, oh, I wish I had this or that, that kind of thing. So um,
So do you ever see, because I mean that last interview I was wondering, like, do you ever see it being like push having like a open format, something to where like a JJOS could be like, and just for people who didn't know a JJOS, like if you had an MPC, I think 1000, uh
I've
there
got
was
mine
this
in the closet over there, JJOS. Yep.
yeah, there was this thing called JJOS that was kind of like done for the MPC 1000. If you got a 1000, make sure you look into that. But yeah, it was just like this, somebody had invented this crazy update for like MPC that just made it just do so much more. And I'm just wondering if Push will ever get to that point where there's like an open format that people can go in and kind of make their own like update.
Yeah, I mean, certainly like the beginnings of that are there with some of what we do with Max for Live. So there's a lot you can do with Max for Live to take it over and do different things with it. I'm all for, like, if somebody wanted to make it entirely different, work in an entirely different way, I'd love for that to be able to happen. I think there's some things we have to do to make it easier for people, and we are working on a lot of that. I think, like, you'll see more coming from how Max for Live is integrated into Push and how it can take things over, um, and and definitely for Move as well. Like we want people to be able to take these over. I think, um, like a step towards this that we have in 12.2 is our expressive chords, which is like we're starting to add more and working with Cycling 74, who are part of Ableton, to be able to take over more in cleaner ways, so it doesn't feel like it's like an add-on, but it feels like it's really integrated into it. And I think, like, I mean, I'll just show, maybe I can show you on yeah, on, if I go to expressive chords, like the whole grid is now a little different than how you see it. I think my camera isn't working there. Give me a second. Okay, it's back to this one. Yeah. So, you know, this grid is different than how you normally see it, and there's some tricks we're doing where we can do different things with notes. So like, so what we have here is like each note, each pad plays a different chord, but we use the expressive pads now, and that added some extra work we did with cycling, and art and the push team worked together to make things so that we can play a chord. I can play a chord here on the bottom of the pad, and it's just all the notes together. But if I play at the top of the pad, you get
Yeah, okay. So when you did that, I was wondering like, so if you just, so it's more of a pad movement, not if you hold the but not if you hold the pad longer, but actually if you hold the pad at a specific point that it plays more of the like a
yeah,
melody.
and we even have it so that like you can have the if I play to the right of the pad, I'm going to have the more trebly notes are going to be louder. The left of the pad will be the bass notes will be louder, and then where you are vertically in it is going to be this sort of like, you know, getting more strummed out. And those strums, I can also reverse those strums. I can change the pattern of those strums. So like if I go to if I go here to, and again, sorry, my
That's fine.
one camera's out, and yeah, if you see down here in the bottom, I've got like, I can set the strum inversion. I can put that to the mod wheel, so I can invert the chords. I can do all the stuff that's going um, up or down, or really like use those pads to do more with Max for Live in this way. So
So while you have it, I guess, what are like with 12.2 and off camera you told me that 12.3 is going to be incredible. But with 12.2, like what do you feel that was some of the highlights like very special? Like I know the filter, I know they had the expressive chords. Um for me it was I guess is it follow through like
the
basically how
follow
you
actions, yeah.
follow actions. That was a big one for me. What are more that I mean if you care to show us like some of the things that probably everybody's not aware of that's on push now.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the follow actions is great because it's, I mean, follow actions is a feature in live where you can play a clip and have a trigger another clip after a certain amount of time, or kind of randomly jump between different clips, which can be super cool for like chopping up beats automatically, or like if you're playing in a live show and you want something to happen after another one. But there's also this I think what's great about it here is it's really kind of like turns push into sort of a basic song sequencer too. So I can make it so that each of these clips that I play, scenes that I play, is like my verse, my chorus, bridge, and I can loop these together and have them play for a certain amount of time. So it's really like getting towards more crafting a song. And you know, I can have these play. I can have like one of my parts play a certain number of times. I can change the time signature or tempo of that scene. So also for live stuff, this is really cool. And you can have them jump around and go to different one by chance or not. But for me, it's mostly a songwriting tool that I'm using to just say, lay out the different parts of my song in the session view and come up with a lot of ideas really quickly, I think, that way. Um, so that's the follow actions part, I think. As I showed you a bit of the expressive chords, which I love, I was really pretty deeply involved in working on it, and it's an idea we've had for a long time. I know other products do this where you play a chord, you hit a pad, and you hit a pad and it plays the whole chord. What I really love about this though is you can kind of, like, you can see the clip actually that I imported here. This is like, I just went and got a lot of Roy Ayers chords, put them all into a MIDI clip here in live, and then you import them in and you have this layout of all these chords. So for me, it's great to take stuff from like old jazz. I'll just take any solo jazz piano, I'll just put it into audio to MIDI and edit it a bit so it's on the quarter note, and now I've got like a layout of all my chords. Or if I'm playing live, I might say I have 8 chords I want to play in a song, and you can quickly put your chords into one thing that you might play live. Um,
Is bounce to track on the push as well? I know it's on the application, but can you do that on the push as well?
Yeah. I don't have something set up here right now, but yeah, you can bounce to. Sorry, I think if I did that, yeah. Let's see. No, it's on this one. Yeah, I can bounce it here. If I hold Shift and hit the track that I want, I can bounce
Wow.
that in place. That's super fun for especially like I'm a person who uses a lot of external synths and effects. I've got a tape echo here, and I'm using that all a lot to like because if I turn on my tape echo and I set it up to do some weird dub stuff on my drums or whatever, and then I make it sound great, and then I leave my computer and come back the next day, and I had bumped the space echo, then maybe it doesn't sound the same as it did. So I'm often doing that bounce in place to get to print that to audio to
Yeah,
something that I know will be there.
does the bounce to track like help with the because I know like it's all like since you're working on a computer, does it save you some of the computer processing when you like to save some like if you have all these reverb and plugins kind of Max for Live devices, does that actually save some of the computer processing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like that's important also if you want to take it from your computer to a standalone set that you want to use on push. Like if you've got VSTs or something like that, like VSTs can really eat up your CPU, I think, and as can even like wavetable is something that can work great, but it can also if you set wavetable the right way, it can like destroy a MacBook Pro. So like it can really eat up your resources depending on how you program it, and a lot of VSTs are that way too. So that's definitely bouncing to track. But I think also it's about commitment to me. Like you can if I save everything as MIDI all the time, I can always go back and play with it and edit it, which I love. But also there's a time where you're like, if you put it in audio, then it's done and you're like it's decided, and it can help you to finish the track you're working on too. I think because we all live in the world of the loop graveyard, as I say, like where you're just got I've got tons of sets that are not finished on my computer.
Yeah,
So
while we're going there, because me looking, just kind of doing my research, you were saying that warping was like a big like saved you like 2 months of your 2 months of your life just as far as just how warping work with push. Like, could you just show people like what like how on the push like what it was that you said, man, this just saves so much time and it's just so simpler.
yeah, I mean, so like basically like yeah, I've got tons and tons of samples that are like MP3s. I sample in from my record player, all this stuff. I think, and warping is what got me here to live more than session view, more than anything. For me, warping was it, and I love warping. I love going in and adjusting the little markers and saying, okay, it's like a rubber band where I can move it around. But like I've always wanted it to be better. We had an auto warping, but I think it was 11.3 where we got this new auto warping, which like really just works on everything I throw at it. And most of my stuff is like old jazz, funk, and fusion and soul and stuff from the 70s that I'm trying to warp. And now I don't have to spend that time warping it anymore. I just bring it in and it's set. So like I've got something here where when you have warping in a sampler, like what's really cool about it is you can chop it and change the tempo later, and it all works out. And then with these pads, you can do other things with it too, where you can change the pitch of it without it being. You can change the pitch without changing the tempo. So like I have a warped sample in here right now. But before I get to that, to answer your question though, I calculated how much time I spend warping like old songs and like going in and going loop to loop to loop to loop to figure out how it is. And I was like, okay, if that one, each one takes me like 2 minutes or whatever, or 4 minutes, or some of the harder ones take longer, and I do this many times a week. I calculated it and I don't know if it's exactly right, but I was like, now that we have this, that's going to save me 2 entire months of my life. And yeah, I think it was Flying Lotus who said to me, he's like, what are you going to do with those 2 months? and that had me like, oh yeah, that's a fly low kind of question, like how do you take advantage of that time that
The
you
two
got
extra
back?
months of your now you have 14 months in your life now.
I guess I got to go on vacation somewhere or like make an album, dedicated to warping. But I think
Fantastic.
like what I really love about warping here is this is a file I dragged in. I converted it to a simpler, and that's my way I like doing it. Is like I go and I bring it into an audio clip, it auto warps it. I set the loops I want, and then I convert it to a simpler, and then I can do things like if I hit this sample like, so I'm hitting it, but the tempo is staying the same without me doing anything, which is great. But now because this is these expressive pads, I can do other things too. Like I can change the pitch while it's playing too. So like if I go like, and now I'm not re-triggering it. I'm changing it while
Wow.
it's playing. So that leads me just to a lot of really creative ideas that maybe I wouldn't normally get to. Like actually this one's kind of interesting because I know like I think it goes like, so it's going up like, it's going up a bit, but if I go in reverse of what it's doing, I can make it stay at the same pitch. So like, let me try again. So I'm like canceling out the chord change that's happening there while I'm
Wow.
doing this weird stuff. Then I'm also like when chopping with warped chopping is also like one of my favorites. Like, of course you can change it to the transient, which I don't really do because of how great it is when I do it by beat. And I also change this playback to through here. But if I do it by beat, that means I can just take it and it'll it'll do every quarter note or eighth note or whatever. But and then I set this playback to through. It means it'll keep playing as I without me hitting it. So like now this is just going to keep playing until I re-trigger. But if I do something like, so just it's always keeping the beat no matter what the tempo is, and being able to jump between those slices really quickly is great. We also have our
So,
way to do the manual chop too, which is like for more of like the lazy chop where you can do like, I can just hit it and hit it adds a point right where I want it to. And of course you can go in and make sure that that's exactly where you want it to be, that sort of thing. So
so do you have a so right now as you were hitting, do you also have like velocity? Because it seemed like it was getting louder when you were hitting certain things.
yeah, so I have velocity on. Actually, that's true. I normally if I'm doing sample stuff, I'm usually putting that accent or like the full level on because that sample often has that the velocity is already taken into account for what the sample's doing. So yeah, I would normally put that full level on. So like, and with it off. But sometimes you
Yeah,
want it both ways. Yeah,
just to have the option, like
yeah,
that if you hitting it, because if if you're at a live show or you're doing something like you may just want that accent. So I know you work with a lot of people. I mean, I know you mentioned that you work with Q-Tip. You just said Flying Lotus. Like, how do you see? Do each of the musicians kind of use it in their own way? Like do some people use it as a sampler? Do some people use it in a more performance piece? Like how do you see mostly the people you deal with work with it?
yeah. I mean, it's a good point. It's one of the harder things for us to talk about. I think because it can be so many different things to different people. I think like I'm kind of like a. I think there's some of us who use it for all kinds of things. Like you might use it only to send CV to a modular rack, as your sequencer. Like Q-Tip will use it really just for sampling, and he's got like he'll have like a rack with a bunch of simplers in it to like that he records a bunch of samples from his incredible record collection, and then chops them all up and then has just like a library on a lot of these of tons and tons of samples he can use all over the pads, you know, like so he can really go between different stuff. And like his rhythm and timing is also like incredible to watch him work and like how he I don't know, there's a video you can see of him like making a beat with a needle on
Yeah,
one
needle
hand like
dropping, needle like a
and
needle
then
needle,
yeah
needle dropping kind of thing. That was like something that's like some old school stuff.
yeah
Not a lot of people know how to do that, but yeah, I seen him do that. That was incredible.
yeah, he does that. He plays bass. He plays everything. He plays keys. You know, he's really like a musical mastermind in that way. But Push is his centerpiece for doing a lot of for where the samples run from, you know, and things like that. So um, then you know you'll find people who use it like only on stage. Like this is a this runs the playback of all their tracks. They've got their scenes all lined up, so they've got you know different parts of songs, and you know they might be recording a guitar along with it or playing keys live with it. But this is going to run their backing tracks, and like they can filter in and out of things and use it in like a DJ kind of way. Um, I think like so it's like for others like it'll be just a drum machine too, like I mean, and it could be any combination of these things, but like with these, you know, I've got tons and tons of these drum racks that are like, and with the expressive pads now I can do things like I can add effects on just the top of the pad, not the bottom, or I can double the hi-hat at the top. So you can do these, you know, and have like effects come in while you're playing it, or kind of liven it up. Like, really for drums, I love it for livening up acoustic drums. So like, I can have my closed hi hat that gets slightly more open as I go up, or hit the edge
Uh,
of a snare. But I'm not trying to always hit exactly that place. It just gives me a more like live, more human sounding drum when I'm playing it. That kind of thing.
Now, question. Now that to just go ahead with, I mean, lead on what we're talking about. Can you daisy chain, like, let's say if you had a push one or push two, could you daisy chain like push three to those other pushes, and then basically like, let's say if you was in a live performance and you said, well, I just want this to be the drum machine or the drum rack, and I want this to be the arranger. Could you do something like that?
Yeah, you can do. There's some technical reasons we can't do everything, but mostly that like right as it is right now, we can only have one of these displays working at a time. So like either from your computer can't run it, but you could have two standalone pushes linked together. That's one way you could do things, or you could have a move and a push linked together with Ableton Link. You know, and push can be the Wi-Fi hotspot, so you don't have to worry about the club Wi-Fi or anything. Um, or you could
So
plug
and
a
so in
push.
that way, that's good. So when you say move, would move act as your like your push remote, or would it just like have its own different function?
You could have it either way. You could use move as a control surface for push, or you could use move as a separate standalone device, which is more what I see it as. I think like move is maybe your drum sequencer kind of thing, and then push you're playing notes with or launching other clips. And you know you can plug an APC 40 into this too to like have some faders and a crossfader and
Yeah,
launch some.
I use my APC 40 like that, just with the I just kind of just plug different things to just see, you know, what will work. I mean, you know, I've talked about it, like I would really like to have like, to me, like something that was really incredible that the NPC does is like work with the Model 12, like I got one here. I don't know if I can, the Model 12,
Yeah, it's a great piece. My brother has
yeah,
one here.
I would love to have like push work with something like, because then that way I just feel like you almost have like a minute, like not saying that the standalone isn't a studio in itself, but just having like the actual functions and the EQing and the stuff like that, like to have that, like I thought that, you know, when I saw NPC do that, I was like, oh man, that's dope that they have something like that. But I've used Push 3 with, you know, just hooking it up to different things just to see if it works. And some stuff work. You'll be surprised how some stuff work. And then like, you know, there's certain things like, okay, there's always going to be a difference between the manufacturers of what can and what can't.
Yeah, I mean, we want to get better with some of this stuff. Like, we work with basically if a control surface works with live, it's going to work with push. Um, I think the Model 12 would work as a Mackie controller for push, but I haven't tried it out myself. But like, so you could mix with it and stuff. But as an audio interface, yeah, the wish is there. I Lots of people ask us for it, so we listen to what people ask for. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. And I know, I know. There's certain things that's on the mind, and yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, just go.
what I can always say is there's always a number after. People are like, "What's coming after Live 12?" I'm like, "Live 13's coming. Don't tell anybody." But there's always another version coming, and we're always trying to make our products better over time. Whether it's Push 2, we're still doing a lot to improve Push 2 as well. Like a lot of the things we do for Push 3 will make Push 2 better, which doesn't help our sales, but it's like we want those products to last a long time.
Yeah. What
Um,
what is like right now, like what is like a go-to Max for Live device that you feel that like people need to use on Push 3? Like is there a certain device that you feel like, yeah, you need to really know about this Max for Live because it opens up more opportunities when you're using the Push.
yeah, I mean that's a big question. I think like for me, I use Max for Live devices to control all the synths around my studio so that like I'm focused on push and I've got tons of synthesizers around here that I can like over there I've got a Rhodes Chroma Polaris, which is like an old synthesizer from the 80s that made by the people from ARP, and I have a controller that I made in Max for Live that will control all the parameters of that. So I don't have to go across the studio to that. I just turn it on, and also it's kind of brittle. So like now I'm controlling it with push rather than. So I love doing that with external synthesizers, but there's great some really cool sequencers coming out. I think like Isotonic does some really cool stuff. I'm not much of a sequencer person though. I'm more of a play. I play more than sequence. Also, Yuta Sidebrain is always like he's just brilliant on lots of things he does. So
That's my go-to guy.
I mean,
Shout out to you to like I just he just helped me figure out something that I was trying to work with VCV rack and how to use a drum rack as far as controlling some of the like a component that's in the VCV rack. And I'm gonna hopefully I'm gonna get to that and show people how I use it. And I want to pass it to you so you can just kind of see what's going on as well. But yeah,
yeah. I
I
mean,
know there's some really great guys. I don't know his last name, but Justin is another guy that I see. I know he came to one of the Ableton in Pasadena and played like this. I was just like, man, this guy just it's certain people that use it, and you're just like you just really see what you can do. Because like in your mind, you're like, man, you may just use it as one thing, and then you have these guys that just really use it as an instrument and just for everything. Justin was, when I seen him do it, he was doing. I was like, man, he just kind of blew me away, just how what he could do.
yeah. I mean, there's like really incredible stuff and deep like sophisticated ways to do music that sometimes I'm like I didn't think of that, and um, which also happens with it can also happen just like with racks and like people putting together like Chuck Sutton as a guy in LA he put together some crazy racks like that do all this wild stuff I never conceived of just with Live's built-in devices and then like DiBiase is somebody who like I saw using Move and I was like we didn't think of using it the way he's using it for sample chopping. It's like doing some sort of sequencing lazy chop that I was like that, and that's so amazing to see when you see somebody use it in a way that you were like, oh, we didn't
Yeah,
think
I
of
know,
that.
I know, I know DBI. I mean, he comes from the 404, like the SP 404 kind of thing, and
Yeah.
yeah, just seeing some of that. Does the 404 work with like can you does the 404 work with the push? Have you ever tried that?
I use it a lot with. with my brother, like with him using it, recording into Push. Like my brother's uses the 404, and the new one, and I'm buddies with the Roland guys who did it. And but I don't think you can. I'm sure you could route audio out of it and use it as an effects processor too, which would be really cool. I haven't done it, but I love some of those 404 effects and things like that too.
Yeah, I know that's what a lot of people use a 404. They like mostly like UFX and just that, like the quick hands on like some of the things that it does, like if you're playing live with it. Um,
I love the also the always recording part is really cool. Like I want one of those just next to my turntable because it's always like it has that I forget what it's called, like rewind playback or something where it's always recording the audio, and if you hear a sample afterwards, you're like, boom. Like, yeah, so we learn from all these things, and we want them all to work together because there's no, like I think years ago we started doing our like pictures on our website when like I remember at the time there was like you'd go to a website of a company and they'd have all products from that company, and I think we were like, that's just not what we ever see anywhere. So like I want this to work with an MPC. I want it to work with a machine. I want it to work with a 404. Because this is the reality of the studios that you go into. There's
yeah.
no reality where you go into a studio. It's like, we've got only Fender guitars or only like it's just not
Yeah.
the way the world is. So.
Yeah, no, I know one thing that I saw the 404 they just did, I think they have like a Serato was like basically you can just use a 404 now to just kind of be like your controller for Serato. I thought that was like a unique idea and that would, you know, just get the 404 user like more involved with with what's going on. Yeah, and so going into that,
Yeah, I mean, actually, on that topic, like, yeah, I've worked a lot with Serato in the past. Like, I worked on the Bridge project, which unfortunately no longer works. But so I love that integration, and I love the people at Serato, and like OP. We just visited him with him recently, and like we're always talking about like, cause Serato samples amazing too. It's another incredible way to chop samples, and they do a lot of smart things, and he uses it with a push to like like we're using it. We're talking about like what can we do to make this all better. I think is like how can you make everything play along. I think Link is like a good step towards that, but there's always more you can do to integrate everything better. I think.
so I brought this question last. I gotta bring this question again because I thought it was a interesting one. Like didn't if Ableton wasn't the the dog behind the machine, what would be your next dog choice? Like what like just off back, like what would be your dog that you like, okay, this is, Ableton didn't make it, but this is the one that I think that I could do something for that would just be next level.
Yeah, I mean, there's like kind of a convergence of feature sets now. Like they all kind of like are coming to a point where like every DAW is pretty incredible, and like 16-year-old me with my Yamaha 4-track would have been like, what? So like I think I could probably end up being happy with almost any DAW. But what's really cool out there? I think like I mean, I worked a lot with Reason when I was starting out, and I think it's a fantastic program, and I still love using it. I use it as some of their plugins in live, which is really fun. Like using Scream on a drum track. Like,
Yeah, I really miss Rewire. Like I just because I wasn't a big Reason user, but then like when somebody introduced me to Rewire, I was like, oh man, this is like you're getting the best of both worlds into one situation, and then like I guess I don't I mean nobody ever said what happened. Just I just know Rewire just kind of faded out.
yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, it's how I got into these too, because like in Live 3, I was using Live 3 with did we have Rewire yet? Then I was using some weird program to link Reason and Live, and then I think Live 4 we got Rewire, and that I was rewiring them all the time because Live didn't have that many instruments at the time, and so Reason's one. I think Logic's amazing, great price. Like does incredible amount of things, and uh, I'm really, I think like Luna has some really cool stuff in it too, like from Universal Audio, like the way they integrate their instruments and effects, and I love the Universal Audio stuff for guitar and bass and stuff like that. Um, I've never really ever barely used Pro Tools, although people tell me the editing is like incredibly fast. And what am I forgetting? I used to use
Cubase.
Cubase was one of my first DAWs too. You like, I'm sure I could be happy there. I'm sure, like for me, it's about, and yes, now it's more about like workflow and speed, and I guess like live. The reason I mean I always hear live has a hard starting point, like because you're, what's this session view like? Why does it look like Microsoft Excel? And once you get it and you understand that, then you're like off to the races. But it does have that first learning curve that's a little hard,
Yeah,
I think.
it definitely does. And I think that's, I'm glad that you said that because I think that um the shift where I won't say a shift, the divide between the electronic musician and the hip hop musician. I think that's where there's some divide because I think like, electronic musician, they're used to just seeing things all over the place and just like they'll dive in deep where, you know, a hip hop kind of producer used to a more simple layout of how things are done. Um, is Ableton, and I know we talked about it before, and you were just saying like, yeah, that's something that we're trying to work on. And I'm not saying that, as we were talking, like I know Q-Tip is involved. You said Flying Lotus. I've seen Battle Cat. I've seen different people at different places. And I know that's something that's Ableton's kind of working on because, and I'm only addressing it because like I watch a lot of YouTube creators and they'll just have different things to say and they're like, oh, I like this, but I don't see anybody from hip hop making beats on this, and so I just want to put it out, like what do you see Ableton doing? And I know that's a like maybe a PR kind of thing, but what would you like to see with that situation? How to make that
Yeah,
divide not there?
I mean, like as I'm a person who makes hip hop and has been involved with a lot of hip hop users from artist relation days to now, like, and I see push and live being used a lot in hip hop, and I think like it's easy to get like insular in Berlin and like be like, because Berlin is like all techno electronic music and not tell those stories, but we need to tell the stories in the voices, the people's actual voices. And I think a challenge for us is like big big there's a lot of big hip hop users, like Timbaland uses push, and Ludacris, and De La Soul, and like there's, and Jazzy Jeff, and like there's a lot, but a lot of people don't have time to like do the story with us, so it's been hard to do some of that. I think like to get people to do a sit down interview or a video or something like this. And but we need to put more effort into it as a company. I think like it's it's a mindset that's got to change. And like I think like that's where I want to like, I want to tell the stories of like I know Lord Finesse does his, like he's got a set of his own videos on how to warp in Ableton Live that like he sends around to his buddies, and I'm like, what? Why isn't that on front page of our stories? Like they're, people want to be like, they want to learn about the software they use from people like them, I think, and that's been a challenge for us in a lot of different areas, I think, and something we can do a lot better at. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to like, if you see a video that maybe it tells you exactly how to use that drum rack and samples and everything exactly the way you want, but it's like being played with like an EDM sound or a techno sound, you turn off the video. Like, so like we need to get better at at telling how to do things and working with people in their own voices. I think in the voice of their music, and it doesn't just go for hip hop. It also goes for like a guitarist who wants to multi-track record Like that's something that Push can be. It could be your multi-track recorder for your couch and your guitar, and like we don't have that story out there yet. I think so. Like, but hip hop in particular, I feel like we can do a lot better and should do a lot better.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm
let's get a story with you coming in.
no, for sure. I've had all versions of the push, and me talking to you just since, we've had a relationship and just kind of like, and I know like, you know, you're definitely the hip hop, and let's get down because I know we have somebody we both know, and I want to talk about some projects before we just get out of time. Like you're working with Motion Man. I don't know. Last time we were talking, so you want to tell us something about the projects you working on, like what you got going on.
Yeah, so I mean, I do some like instrumental hip hop on my own that's kind of weird and dubby, and then but I've done some projects with Motion Man, who's in out in California, and yeah, he and I first got in touch. I think when he was freestyling for like an article I was doing, and he saw me in a Philadelphia Eagles shirt, and he's a Cowboys fan, so
Oh
he started he started like dissing me pretty hard on the stage, and that's how we became friends. So he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you can talk football and hip hop, okay?" And so yeah, we're working on an album together. Yeah, hoping to get out next year, but we need to get on it in terms of recording. So, but we got tons of beats and stuff. So yeah, and I
Do you know if Ableton will ever get into like actual, I know a lot of companies sometimes they'll delve into like the actual putting out records. Do you ever see like Ableton getting into something like that where they have an artist and they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna be behind this actual artist and project.
I mean, I don't think Push 4 is going to have a U2 album on it that you can't delete or anything like that. But no, I don't see us putting out an album. But I do. We do like we do some live packs with different artists. Like I think like I was just in. There's like a Cutmaster Kurt one and a DJ Newmark pack we've done in like the hip hop world. But then things like Apparat and like other great electronic stuff. And those are cool because they often have like construction kits where you can like put together sounds of theirs, and uh, but I don't think we'd get into the publishing of never say never. But I mean, in a way, I wish for it because as a musician, because I think the hardest part for many of us is like the creating is like the fun part, and then like finishing the songs gets a little harder. Putting it out and marketing it though, that's like
A whole nother beast within
whole
itself.
nother beast that I don't think there's not many of us who like given the choice would be like, I want to go do the marketing and social media for my new album. I'd love it if there was a machine out there to do that for me. I don't think that'll be Ableton because we really try to keep our focus on what we're good at and not expand too far into other directions. But certainly you'll see great demo music coming in, and other live packs that have sounds from artists and things like that. So
Perfect. So, I don't, like I said, I want to, we got a solid hour and man, I really appreciate you talking. Is there anything, I know politics coming, is there anything that you could kind of hint on what's going to be coming up in some of the later updates that you could share with us?
okay, I'll do my political speak now. So I'll say nothing in a bunch of words.
Okay.
No, I mean, I will say that we listen everywhere. We've got a big Discord channel. We're definitely active on. Listen to forums. You may not see me in there, but I'm watching the Facebook groups and like seeing. We're always seeing and ranking what we think is the most important thing to do. The number one thing may not be what comes next because it might take a really long time. Like Push 2 came out, people wanted it standalone. Sure, but it took us a long time to do it. But
Right.
so we might be working on things now that won't be there until Live 13, Live 14. But we're also trying to do more of the like point release updates. So like you saw with 12.1 with 12.2, we're trying to do big chunks of things that keep bringing value to people over time. And and so you're regularly getting these, you know, things that make the product more exciting. And all I can say is 12.3 looks really, really, really exciting right now. So, so
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
12,
take my
12,
word for it.
12. No, 12 2, like the difference between 12 and 12 2 is like just like wow, like it was just so much, and especially in it involving the push three, like what was done. Um, I want to, I mean, we talked about it before, and I just want to, like I said, thank you again for taking some time. Hopefully that we can get to, like we said, push could be used for so many things, and I would like to just sit down with you and just show how it could be used in a performance mode, how it could be used in the studio mode. So, I would like to keep it going in some type of way where we can just kind of break down some, because there's a drum rack, there's a sampler, like it could be used in so many different ways. So I would like to just sit down with you and just like, I mean, I'm personally getting right now getting into the whole CV kind of thing, and that's where I'm just like oh man, this is the super controller now, just being able to use it for that. So I would like to sit down with you and just if you have time and just kind of like make this series where we can just show how many the different functions so people can kind of understand, and maybe they want to use it for this, maybe they want to use it for that, or maybe they want to use it for everything. But yeah, just sit down and just kind of just explain more what push is, because I think it's a incredible device. I think that people kind of like don't look at it as what it is. It's a computer, and things just take time to develop, and there's going to be some bumps along the road, but it's still fairly a new machine compared to the Akai and what Native Instruments have, and that kind of thing. But there's like you were saying, Justin and Yuta, there's some like incredible people out there that use it, and I suggest like people go take a look at some of their videos and understand like what it can do. Is there anything last thing that you would want to just say before we kind of close this out?
Yeah, I mean, you got me on that. Like, there's a whole we could do a whole hour on just the like modular part of it as a hub for your modular and controlling things with the expressive pads. We could do an hour on it being your multi-track recorder and your stem player for a live performance with certain effects to do like overdubs and transitions and things, and or just how to play keyboard on it. You know, like, so it is a lot of different things to different people. And like, yeah, I think it's finding the one, and I think also for us finding the right stories of people using it in those ways. We need to do better at it, I think, to try to show all those different use cases of it. But I'm happy to talk whenever you want, man. It's great
Yeah,
talking.
maybe we'll get some, because you mentioned Jazzy Jeff and Q-Tip. Maybe we can just try to chime in and have somebody just jump in and just kind of show how they're using it. I that would
Great.
just to me that would just be interesting to just kind of see how the different, because I think doesn't Ski Beats, I think Ski Beats is another person. I follow Ski
Love
Beats
him.
because he does the whole thing with the modular Eurorack kind of thing. So I just
He's
kind of
another
watching it.
legend. Yeah, like just in terms of he's a helicopter operator on the SP 1200. Like I've never like you know like but also a great bass player. Like he's like a savant across the board. Love the guy. And yeah, I mean yeah, let's do it. Let's find someone else and bring some other
Yeah,
people
let's
in. That'd
let's
be great.
yeah, and we just sit down and just have people just kind of show us how they use it, because I think that that I think that would be interesting. But nah, Jesse, once again, thank you for your time. I appreciate this redo, and I think this is kind of going to be something that's going to be good and useful for a lot of people, and have some questions, and yeah, just something for the community to kind of like express on and kind of just grow from here. But
Cool.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Yeah, and
You too.
have a great day, and hopefully we'll talk soon, and then I'll let you, once you reach out to some people, let me know like how we could go about it, and get some more stuff started.
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you. Uh, thanks everybody for stopping in, Ben, Frank, and Louis Johnson, and pass this on to some people that's out there watching, and Been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.